This is a Dreamcast disc and is for use only on a Dreamcast unit. Playing this disc on a hi-fi or other audio equipment can cause serious damage to its speakers.
Dreamcast, up to 6 billion players.
Welcome back to the stage of history.
Why don't we play together?
Hey, it's time to make some crazy money. Are you ready? Here we go!
Please stop this disc now.
You know, on other podcasts, they start the podcast and it's like they're already talking, as if you just kind of walked in on them. I wanted to add that to our podcast because it sounds good. Hello and welcome to the Dreamcast Junkyard Dream Pod. My name is Tom, and I'm joined by two co-hosts today. We have Rob.
Hey.
And we have Caleb.
Hello.
Hello. How are you guys both doing? Okay.
All good. Yeah, I've just had a birthday yesterday, so just had sort of a birthday weekend, and it's been very relaxing. Got some decent gifts, ate a lot of food, and pretty good.
Rob, allow me to say happy birthday. I'm sure everyone listening to this would also like to wish you a happy birthday, and I'm just a minute. I'm just going to see if I can hear them all shouting happy birthday. Oh no, I can't because they're going to be listening to this in the future. So for me to hear them all shouting happy birthday at once would have to involve some kind of time travel. I didn't think that one through very well. Yeah, I apologise, I'm rambling.
Maybe in 10 seconds, a future Tom will kick down your door, and it's a bit like the DeLorean will be outside.
Before we continue, can I just let you both know that I've got a raging hangover? So if I don't sound myself, that's why.
Is this the result of all those exotic cocktails I saw you drinking?
Yeah. We went to this bar where you take all your own booze, and then the waiter kind of selects things that you've brought and then makes all these weird cocktails for you. So I don't really drink cocktails, and then he was just coming back to the table with new and exotic ones, and I was just like, oh my god. And after about the 8th one, I was just like, good god, I'm really, really drunk. I've got a hangover. How are you doing, Caleb?
I just got over a huge chest cold, so I'm still recovering.
God, we're like the walking wounded, aren't we, today? Mine's self-inflicted, but, you have my sympathies. Right, should we kick off with our usual topic of things that we may have bought or purchased or have been playing? Rob, we'll start with you. Anything to report?
I feel like I'm sort of in the wilderness at the moment, sort of wandering through the Dreamcast desert, because I still haven't picked up anything on Dreamcast. It's literally been months now. I can't remember what the last thing was that I picked up. I don't know. I seem to be going through this barren spell. I'm going to have to rectify that pretty soon. I'll just go out and buy, I don't know, a copy of Sonic Shuffle or something. Just so,
no, don't do that.
I don't know. I have picked up some new stuff, but unfortunately, again, it's Neo Geo stuff. So I'll just be really quick with this. I got a copy of Fighter's History Dynamite, which is basically Street Fighter 2 or Super Street Fighter 2. It's a complete rip-off, but it's a rip-off in a really good way because it plays and looks and sounds just like Street Fighter 2. And the other one that's World Heroes 2 Jet.
Okay.
Which is one of the later World Heroes games. It's not the World Heroes series isn't the best 2D fighter game, but I need to get Jet because then I've sort of completed my collection in terms of the World Heroes games. And the other cool thing is as well, it's got a British character in it, and he looks a bit like what's his name from the Young Ones, Adrian Edmondson's character. Was he called Eddie?
Yeah, like a punk type.
He's a complete punk type. Just imagine the absolute atypical 80s British punk. He's got the mohawk. He's got all the denim with the sleeves cut off, and he's a ridiculous character.
A ridiculous stereotype.
He's a ridiculous stereotype, but on top of that, there's then these layers of insanity and craziness in how he fights. So he's sort of a cross between Vega. He's got a different name, hasn't he? Vega, or is it Balrog, the guy with the
claw?
The claw. He's like a cross between him and a sort of a British punk. So crazy.
Like a nice chat, yeah.
That's it, I'm afraid. Just those two fighters. What about you, Tom?
Yeah, I've made a couple of purchases. I bought a few books. They're not necessarily Dreamcast related, but they are Sega related. I got the History of Sonic the Hedgehog, which is brilliant.
Awesome.
And also the Sega Mega Drive and Super Nintendo book, the one that is released by Imagine Publishing.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. It's got a lot of information in that. Dreamcast-wise, I managed to get hold of a Neo Geo Pocket link cable.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, you posted it up. Have you actually connected it yet?
No, I've not actually got it yet. I took that picture off the eBay auction. It's in the post. It's on its way here now. When it comes, I will do like a little video or an article on the Junkyard about it. I'm just intrigued to see how it works and what kind of things it unlocks in certain games, because I know it's compatible with King of Fighters. Is it 99? So we'll see what I can do with that.
Can I ask just quickly on that? Like, how do you mind saying how much you paid for that?
No, it's 30 quid, £30.
Okay, that's on the cheaper side of the scale I've seen for that cable, because I obviously, I'm a huge Pocket Color guy myself, and I'm obviously a huge Dreamcast guy, and I've always wanted one. But the two reasons that have stopped me is, one, is like I normally see it for £50 plus, so I think you've got a bit of a deal there. And secondly, there are certainly titles that it works on, and you'll still get functionality out of it now, but it's not huge. But yeah, I'd be really interested for you to report back on exactly what you could get out of it.
Yeah, totally will do. Yeah, like you say, when I saw it for 30 quid, I was just like, I'm having that straight away because I've never seen it that cheap before. It's like, imagine seeing one of those Dreamcast link cables for like 30 quid. You know, they're really uncommon. You'd be like, oh, buy it now, have that.
I'll just have it. Yeah.
The second thing I got was Trizeal, the shmup. Not the game. I got the OST, the original soundtrack.
Oh, really?
I was just randomly browsing on eBay as I do, and I came across it. I thought, I'll put a $5 on that, and I won the auction. So yeah, that's quite a nice piece to have in the collection. It's quite similar to the Chaos Field one that I got a few weeks ago. It's like it was a Sega Direct exclusive bonus if you got it through that website. And other than that, I also it's not something I bought. But somebody sent me somebody on Twitter sent me one of the posters, the Metropolis Street Racer posters from the European launch event.
I do, yes.
It's like a mock-up film poster. So I finally managed to brave the crowds of IKEA and get a frame for it. God damn, why people just stand there and look at like cups. I'm like, move!
Don't get me started on IKEA. Like, seriously, like every time it sort of makes me want to get a Doom chainsaw and just go to town because, as you say, there's like this wall of people and they're all holding up mugs and one of them's white and the other one's off-white and they're there like going, oh, what should I buy? And it's like, you're in my way, get out of the way.
Yeah, so that's been my purchasing for the Dreamcast. Playing wise, I've just been playing Gunlord, that 2D side scrolling. You did a video of that, didn't you, Caleb, a few weeks ago? So yeah, that's about it really. Caleb, what have you been doing?
I managed to pick up one game, and it's going to be Vader time because I finally managed to pick up Giant Gram 2000.
Oh man, cool!
A Giant Gram,
yeah,
nice.
Giant Gram 2000 for the Dreamcast. It's an interesting looking wrestling game, and it's got a lot of it's got Vader in there, and it's got a lot of people that I recognize.
Yeah. I love it's got really good graphic. Obviously, I can't understand the Korean mode because it's all in Japanese, but it's a great game. I've said it before, but if they'd used the engine from that game to create like a WWE game, it would have been brilliant.
I haven't gotten into it so far, but I am probably going to use it mainly just for versus mode against people.
Yeah, excellent. Well, that's a nice little trip around what we've been doing. Gaz was going to be joining us again as well today, but he's actually he called in sick about 5 minutes before we were due to start recording. So get well soon, guys, if you listen to this. Likewise, Aaron couldn't make it because he's got other things going on. So yeah, let's jump into the first topic. Caleb, you mentioned something about this the Pia Solar.
So I finally got my email saying that they're going to be mailing it out to me, and I haven't gotten it yet, but I know that other people have noticed that it has been cropping up on sites like eBay, so some people have been getting their copies.
Yeah.
And there's been quite a bit of grumbling about it, but I double-checked, and, it's basically the platform thing. I mean, it's going to be $14.99, and it's going to go on sale for like $3-something on other platforms. But the Dreamcast one is it's very expensive. And, I paid $49 for it originally off the Kickstarter. And right now, their price on the website, it's out of stock, is $56.
Wow.
And it's selling on, and I believe a reseller is trying to sell it on eBay for $75, and they've already sold like 20 of them.
Good God. So,
yeah, I gotta say, like, it must be some dude must have like gotten like a bunch of them from the Kickstarter, because the release a quote unquote pre-order. So I'm not sure if that's an official one or not. It might be something official through Watermelon Games, but the seller's in Germany, which I don't think they would do that, because Watermelon Games is in the US. So
yeah, that's weird. Just going back to what you said before about the price, I've noticed that it's on PSN for the PS4, and it's something like £2.99 or $3.99 or something.
Yeah,
and I mean
the base price in the US for the downloadable versions is the main price has always been $14.99. It's been on sale multiple times.
Yeah,
but I've said I really stopped myself from buying it when it was $3 for the PS3.
Yeah,
and I said no, wait. I mean, I want to play it on the Dreamcast. So it's been a bit of a struggle trying to get it situated, and just waiting to get this thing, in the Dreamcast and playing it. So
to be honest, I'm not a big fan of those kind of games. The sort of the top-down RPG type games. I played Legend of Zelda. That was the last one I really got into on the Game Boy. But
I think this is more like. And again, I've made myself ignorant of this game on purpose. But as far as I can see, I think it's more of an old school, like Chrono Trigger type game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, actually, even more old school than that. It's just basically to me like the old Final Fantasies. I think is the basic thing. But again, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I have intentionally made myself ignorant about so I could go in the game and just fully enjoy what they've done with it. To sum up my thoughts on it, I think the Dreamcast version is going to keep its value. I mean, for some reason, it's so limited, the runs that they're doing on it, that it's not going to be like the Genesis one where it's like, $200 on eBay now to try to get a copy of the Genesis one or whatever their re-release is going to be. But it's going to keep the value. So anybody who backed the Kickstarter, I think if it worst comes to worst, they'd be able to get their money back by reselling it used. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm certainly going to keep mine just as a collector's item and try to play it and see what the deal is.
Nice. So that's PSO there. It's out now. If you like it, let us know. If you don't, let us know. Let's move on to our next topic. This is something that was brought to my attention by Aaron on the Facebook group, and he basically found something on eBay. So the next couple of things that we talk about are going to generally just be looking at things that have come up on eBay because they are quite interesting. The first thing that he actually alerted me to was this thing called a Sega Dreamcast Network Nomura Home Trade disc. I'd never actually heard of this thing before, and I googled it and had a look around on the internet, and there's very little information actually around it. There's an article on I think it's Sega Retro about what it actually is, and it looks like it's some kind of like to play the stock markets.
Yeah.
So you connect to the internet.
That was a huge thing back in the late 90s. I'm surprised that it was still happening in Japan, in the late 90s, but in the mid 90s it was a pretty big thing to have all these little programs that would allow you to do like little stock tradings and stuff.
Yeah.
And people were really into it, but I don't think anybody actually made any money when they were using these little programs. It was basically nickel and dime stuff.
Mike, the guy who wrote the guidebook, the Dreamcast Ultimate Collector's Guide, I sort of tagged him in the post, and he'd never heard of it either. So we just kind of did a little bit of Google archaeology and discovered that it is one of these things where you would have to connect your Dreamcast to the internet and then use the front end on this disc to actually access the stock market server or whatever it was that the Dreamcast would connect to. But yeah, it's a really interesting looking little disc. It obviously doesn't work anymore because I'm guessing the service that it would connect to has long since been shut down.
Yeah.
The price of the disc is interesting. It's actually £350 for a coaster, what is essentially a coaster.
Oh my God!
So yeah, I don't think I'll be putting a bid on it anytime soon.
No, that's got it. I didn't realize it was that expensive. That's got to be a scam of somebody who just found something that they didn't know Because there's no way somebody paid $300.
No.
I mean, God, how much is that in real money? My God.
It's about $500, isn't it? $350.
Jeepers.
I was just going to say, I didn't know anything about this as well, and obviously I consulted the internet, and I found this article from the Irish Times, which was published on October 1st, 1999, which does cover it and gives you some information about the system. I'll just briefly read a couple of the paragraphs. Japanese video game addicts will soon be able to use their Dreamcast electronic consoles to trade stocks online as the result of a venture by Sega Enterprises and Nomura Securities. The move promises to intensify competition in the games industry and the securities industry, which is preparing for the next stage of Big Bang, the rolling program of deregulation. Okay, great. Sega said there were 1.4 million Dreamcast video games consoles in Japan, with 420,000 already able to access the internet using the consoles. These users will be able to access Nomura's Home Trade service by upgrading their browsers with a gigadisk read-only memories, GD-ROMs, supplied by the broker. So
that's what this disc must be then?
That's what that disc is, from what I can see.
Yeah, it must be really, really... It's obviously really rare because, I've never seen it before, and I'm guessing there weren't that many people who actually used them back in the day, but £350 is a bit steep.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
There's such a thing as rare, and there's such a thing as valuable.
Yeah.
I would certainly say this is rare, but I don't think it would be valuable.
Nope. On the same subject, the next thing that I wanted to talk about is something that I was alerted to today. Actually, basically, someone has put a Katana GD-ROM, development disc on eBay, and it literally just has the word Gundam written on it. And what's interesting is that these discs, they usually, when they come up, these development discs, they're actually the orange ones with Dreamcast written on. I've never seen one with Katana written on it before. Again, quick look around on the internet tells me that these were used up until a couple of weeks before they changed the name to the Dreamcast of the system, because it was originally going to be called Katana, as we know. This one is currently, it's about €100 at the moment, and I am hoping to try and win the auction just so I can dump this thing online and see what it actually is, rather than keeping it for myself. I just fear that if somebody else wins this, it's just going to get lost. It's never going to get seen. It's just going to go in somebody's cupboard.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Oh, it's so hard, isn't it? Because don't get me wrong, it's a cool find. It totally is. But yeah, it's the fact it's so ambiguous. It's so vague. We have no idea what's on it, and it's, as you said, like don't get me wrong, I'd like to contribute, but really, I mean, like, it's already over €100. You say? Yeah. It's just stupid, isn't it? I mean, are the people bidding on this actually in the know and know what it is? I doubt it. I doubt it as well. I guess they're having a punt, but man, that's an expensive punt.
Well, the thing that annoys me is that when I come to find these things on, for example, on eBay, and I bid on them, I'm usually bidding on them because I want to own them, but I also want to share them with like the rest of the community. And what a lot of people do, I'm guessing, is they want them just for their own collections, and that's what annoys me. Someone with more money than me can get it and then just keep it.
It's a collector's market where people will just buy stuff just to put it on the shelf.
Totally.
And it's like, I mean, that's kind of cool, I guess, but at the same time, it's like, digitization and preservation stuff. It's like, it'd be really cool if people kind of realize that it's more than just having, really rare stuff on the shelf.
Yeah, I mean, I have emailed the seller, because this is also located in Germany. So I've emailed the seller asking him, how did he come to get it? Can he confirm what's on the disc?
Yeah.
I've had no reply as such, as of now. But, there's still plenty of time. It's got like it's got like a day left on the auction, so by the time this episode comes out, it may have already ended, and we'll know who's won it. But like I say, I'm really intrigued, and I want to just see if it's actually a hitherto unknown game that we can hopefully release and get out to the community.
I'll send you some money. I've seen your post online. I'll send you some. I doubt it'll be enough, because with these things,
if it's not €100, Rob, I don't want it.
It can quickly get stupid, yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
No problem.
Well, I mean, eBay is such a mess too, because there's so much shady stuff going on.
Oh yeah.
There's been so many times when I've like listed something, and then some random bidder has like bid out everybody, and then they just don't pay for the item. And then I find out that like, oh, I was selling a kind of rare video game at the same time as a bigger seller was selling a rare video game. And all of a sudden, some random person who doesn't pay for their item just bids mine out really quickly. It's like, what's going on there?
Just going back to this disc, like I said, it says Gundam on it, and I'm wondering if it's just like a version, an early development of Gundam Side Story. We never got that in the PAL territories. I think we mentioned it on the last episode. You've got it, haven't you, Caleb?
Yes, I do. And I'm good at sniping other Gundams, but then they run in mid-distance and they blow up my Gundam. And I don't have a Gundam anymore because it's blown up.
That review was brought to you by Caleb. Right. So, yeah, moving away from eBay and the perils that it contains, let's move on to our next subject. I just wanted to move more onto like games that we own and games that we've played. And so I was thinking about the other day, actually when I was actually on the seafront down by where I live, I was thinking to myself, there's quite a few like water-based games on the Dreamcast, water-based racers. And I just thought it might be cool to have a little discussion about which one we think is the best. I've picked out 3 here that immediately spring to mind, but if I've missed one, then please let me know. Obviously, we've got things like Hydro Thunder, Surf Rocket Racer, and also Aqua GT. Before I go on any more, have you guys played all of these 3?
I've only played Hydro Thunder, I'm afraid.
Okay. What about you, Caleb?
This is the exact same for me. I've only played Hydro Thunder.
No problem. We'll start with that one then. I mean, I got Hydro Thunder. I think it was like the second game I got, and I absolutely love it. I still think it's brilliant now. I love the music. I love the sort of high octane racing, with the speed boosters and things, and I think it looks brilliant as well. I have noticed one weird graphical glitch though. I don't know if you guys have seen this as well. When you go under a tunnel, the lens flare from the sun doesn't vanish, so it's kind of shining through the roof of the tunnel. It just looks a bit shoddy. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Hydro Thunder, guys?
No, my boat probably lost a lot of paint the amount of times I smashed into cave walls trying to do the jumps correctly.
Yeah, trying to get those elusive turbo things. Yeah,
I don't know. I had fun with Hydro Thunder, but I don't know. I can't. I'm probably not speaking from a position of authority here because I've played very little of on water races, but I don't know, for me it was always Wave Race, and I'd probably still choose to play Wave Race 64 over Hydro Thunder.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I mean, Wave Race 64 is a brilliant game, so no problem with that.
It was fine.
It was okay. All right. Yeah. So with Hydro Thunder, I mean, I particularly like some of the more inventive tracks as you get further into the game. There's one particular one I wrote about I did an article about the best racetracks on the Dreamcast a few months ago, and there's one particular track called, is it right to call it a track? Course called Ship Graveyard, and it's just phenomenal the way you race in between these broken down hulks of warships and things like that. Cool. It's really really good. And there's this one particular bit where you're a storm kind of sets in and you can just see this lighthouse flashing in the distance, and all the waves are crashing. It's just really atmospheric. I love that track, but I love the game as well. The other 2 games that I've kind of picked out here are Surf Rocket Racers, which is going back to Wave Race, like the Dreamcast's answer to that. Weirdly, the water physics are nowhere near as good as Wave Races. The water looks like jelly, it's not it doesn't undulate realistically like Wave Races does. But it's a fun game, it's a fun jet ski game, and there's several, different races that you can race as, and they've all got different attributes, like one's big and slow and one's sort of thin and fast. Do you know what I mean? It's all kind of the norm in racing games. You've got tracks that are in jungle and in cities and whatnot. Surf Rocket Racers does actually have some quite good trackside detail. There's one particular track which is set in New York City, and you as you're racing along, you can see all the crowds of people at the side, and you've got police cars and things and buses and lorries and things going past. And if you just stop and watch them, they're not on a loop. They're actually, do you know what I mean? They're independently traveling along this road and turning off and things. And it's just that's an insane amount of detail just to put on one little bit of a track that no one's probably ever going to look at unless you're me and you've got more time on your hands than is actually safe. But that was a nice thing to spot in Surf Rocket Races. Yeah, so kids, if you listen to this and you've got Surf Rocket Races, go and have a look at the New York track. Just as you go under one of the bridges, there's some nice trackside detail there. And then, the last one is Aqua GT. And this game originally started as Hydro Sprint, I think, which was going to be made by Promethean Designs. And that went quiet, and then it re-emerged as Aqua GT. Some people incorrectly think it's a PS1 port, but the Dreamcast version actually came out first. The PS1 game came out after this one. And it's pretty much, it's like a poor man's Hydro Thunder, basically. There's very little sense of speed. Again, the water effects are pretty poor. You can probably tell it's not my favourite of these 3. But it's functional, if you want to call it that. Caleb, did you say you'd not played this one either?
Nope.
Have you ever heard of it?
I might own it, actually. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Man, when it comes to racing games, for some reason, I just don't care.
That's fair enough. Yeah. To be honest, it's my favourite genre, so that's probably why I quite like to talk about racing games. If you want a water-based racing game on the Dreamcast, you probably don't need to look any further than Hydro Thunder. But it's nice to have the choice. So yeah, check out Surf Rocket Racers and Aqua GT if you get the chance. Bizarrely, Aqua GT is actually really expensive on eBay these days. Sorry, keep going on about eBay.
It's okay. That's funny. That was literally just on the tip of my tongue. I was going to say, how expensive are these three from your experience, Tom? Like, Aqua GT super expensive?
Yeah, Hydro Thunder is pretty sort of tenner penny, you know what I mean? It's one of them games that always pops up for like less than a tenner easily.
Yeah. Sure.
Surf Rocket Racer is a weird one because it's not a common game, but it's not that expensive either when it does pop up. Now, Aqua GT, for some reason, can go up to £100, and I don't know why. It's one of them games like Carrier. We talked about Carrier last week.
Yeah.
It's shit, but yeah, it's really expensive. And this is another one, Aqua GT. So somebody asked me about it on Facebook a few months ago. They sent me just a random direct message saying, "Hi Tom, have you heard of this game? It's really expensive." And that was it. I was like, "Okay, thanks." But yeah, don't pay over the odds for Aqua GT because you'll be disappointed. Also, just on this subject, there's another one that's really expensive. What's it? Evil Twin. And again, I don't know why that's so expensive either.
Yeah, well, that's one of those ones where it's like that was only released in PAL and was it released? Yeah, it was because it wasn't. Yeah, I mean that's why it was basically imports.
It's a 3D sort of like an action adventure type game, like behind the camera, third person, where you kind of go into like a nightmare world. It's kind of based on Alice in Wonderland or something. It's all right, I suppose. The cutscene at the beginning is absolutely horrific. And it's only horrific due to the appalling character graphics. But yeah, anyway, we're going off topic here, aren't we? Right, so those are the the three only water-based games on the Dreamcast.
And my vote is for the Sonic Adventure when the whale is chasing after him.
Do you know, what was I looking at the other day? It was something to do with Sonic Adventure, and that game, that sequence came up, and it's still brilliant. Do you know what I mean? Even now, like that bit where he's kind of running away from the whale, smashing up the what would you call it, the bridge or whatever it is behind him. It looks pretty impressive. Right, I've talked enough about Aqua GT and all that crap. Let's move on to our next section. And what we're going to do now is we decided to open up the floor to our listeners. And
wait
readers.
a second, Tom.
Sorry, go ahead.
Why didn't you include fishing games?
Because I don't know.
Yeah, like water games. There's a lot of really good fishing games for the bass one.
Sega Marine Fishing. Oh yeah, I mean yes. Excuse me.
Good fish. I just wanted to say that.
Is that why that's all you wanted to get involved the fishing games for, isn't it?
Yeah, I just remembered that, and I just wanted to say it.
Well, we're talking about water effects. Maybe we should give a special mention to the water effect at the beginning of Sports Jam. When it shows the WoW Entertainment logo. There's like this pool of water that looks really nice. It's quite shimmery, It's go and check that out if you've got Sports Jam. Just don't look into the eyes of the weird presenter because you might get hypnotised. Anyway, going back to what I was going to say, we asked for some questions from people who listen on Twitter and Facebook, and very happy to report that they obliged in their masses. And so let's have a look at these questions when I can find the document on my desktop. Oh, by the way, if anyone's interested, my Mac still isn't fixed, so that's the only mention I'm going to give that on this particular episode. I'm using my girlfriend's Windows machine at the moment. I actually quite like it, to be honest. I had a fear of Windows, but it's all right. Right then, okay, questions. I'll ask the questions. You guys can answer. Yeah,
great,
excellent. Fucking hell, Rob! Don't sound too excited.
No.
Well, wait a minute. The first question is the question only you can answer.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, I think he's talking about ask the question, then we'll say I don't know, Tom. Why don't you answer?
When's the next Dreamcast reveal? That's from Igor Tanev on Facebook.
I don't know, Tom. Why don't you answer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Clearly, this is referring to the a lot of the Dreamcast demos and unreleased games that Tom has been showing a bunch of them. Tom, do you want to say what the next one is?
Yes, I do. It's going to be Take the Bullet. I've actually already shot the video. I just need to edit it, but it's my MacBook. It's going back to the MacBook again. When I get the MacBook back, then I can put it up on YouTube. So Igor, I'm sorry. I know it's been a while, but I'm going to get it done, and it'll be up, and it'll break the internet, and everyone will be like, "Whoa, Take the Bullet's real. It's great." So that's to answer that question. Sorry, guys. I'm going to answer this next one as well because I know the answers to this. Adam Lundgren, who asked this on the Facebook group, he's also got his own Dreamcast website. It's called Dreamcast.se, I think. Swedish Dreamcast site. It's pretty cool. Go and have a look at it. He asks, why did they change the name for Jet Grind Radio to Jet Set Radio for the PAL release? Now, I know this, and it's because... Actually, before I answer it, do either of you know?
All I know is it was as vague as, it was a trademark issue, and they changed it. It wasn't at the Tokyo Game Show.
Wasn't it an initial thing where they couldn't use, the GR something? Was something... I don't know.
The good guess is, but I believe the actual answer is that there was a band in North America called Jet Set Satellite, and Sega didn't want to have any kind of, have it be confused with them, so they changed it to Jet Grind Radio. But because Jet Set Satellite are not very well known sort of outside of the US, they thought that it'd be fine to keep it as Jet Set Radio in PAL and Japanese territories. So yeah, that's the reason.
That's interesting. I had not heard of
You learn something every day on the Dream Pod.
That's true. It seems like every week I learn something new.
Okay, I hope that answers your question. Well, it does answer your question, Adam. Yeah. Next question. This is from our friend PC, who does all the cool games you never saw, or whatever it's called, videos. Okay, any Dreamcast games that you like that everyone else seems to hate? His example would be Sonic Shuffle.
Wow.
Shuffle.
So yeah, any games you like that everyone else hates? Caleb?
I actually like Carrier. Apparently people on this podcast hate Carrier, but I kind of liked it. I played it up to a point. There was lots of cool enemies with spikes shooting out of them and whatnot, and it did the little thing with the visor thing.
Yeah.
As far as I remember, that was a halfway decent game, but then again, I love survival games a lot. The original, what was it? Death Crimson OX2, I believe.
Yeah.
I love that game so much because it was so goofy. The skeletons looked like paper cutout skeletons, and it's just it's just the aesthetic of it is just so random, and it's just I love that game, and a lot of people don't like it because they would rather have I don't know what they would rather have, but it's a goofy game, and I enjoy it very much so.
It sounds like this episode is sponsored by eBay, but I looked on eBay the other day and I saw Death Crimson 2, I think it was, and I went onto YouTube and had a quick look at it, and I was just like, that looks horrific. I'm not paying for that.
Well, there's the Japanese one. I have both. I think there's Death Crimson OX, and then there's Death Crimson 2.
Yeah.
Now, Death Crimson 2, I believe, was the Japanese only release, and I have that, and you can play it, but you have to click by a bunch of, you got to play the Hammer 1 for about 20 minutes to get past all the Japanese text, and then you can play it. Death Crimson OX, I believe, is the US release, and that's the one that has the weird skeletons. But I think they have some goofy skeletons in Death Crimson 2 as well.
So if you want goofy skeletons, you know where to go. Rob, what about you?
I don't know really, because I don't have a habit of buying. I don't have the biggest Dreamcast collection, and I certainly don't have a habit of buying bad games. I suppose the best I could think of is maybe Tomb Raider Chronicles, which gets absolutely hammered. And probably if I was to sit down and properly write a review of it would come out equally poor. But I don't know. I'm sort of a sucker for those 90s Tomb Raiders.
Yeah.
It's probably just because I grew up playing them. So, I'll go with Chronicles.
I'm going to go with Drive Club. No. I love Drive Club. It's brilliant, especially with the bikes. Anyway, we're not talking about Drive Club.
Yeah. Well, wait a sec. Do people not like Zombie Revenge? Because that's a kind of a dumb fun game. The controls are a little bit wonky, but I always consider that game to be fun.
Yeah,
it's like an arcadey 3D zombie beat 'em up.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Do people not like that game? Because I like that game.
I don't know. I've never heard any sort of bad stuff about it. The game I was going to choose is Suzuki All-Star Racing. It was released as Redline Racer in Japan, but we got it as Suzuki, and I quite like it. Most people sort of slag it off because it doesn't look very good and the graphics are a bit poor, but I think it's really fun, and especially from the inside, from the cockpit view, from the helmet view even, it's a real sense of speed. I think it's by Criterion, the guys who did Burnout. That would be my choice. I quite like Suzuki All-Star Racing. It's probably because I've been playing so much Drive Club bikes. I've got motorbikes on the brain. I've even been looking at Auto Trader, looking at motorbikes again. So that's probably why I've chosen that particular one.
I found that game in the bottom of a bin at a swap meets type sale, and it was beat up. And I don't think I even ever checked to see if it booted up. I'll have to check out and see if my copy is even playable.
Yeah, give it a go. I'm considering getting Redline Racer as well, just to compare the differences, because I know that Suzuki is like a reworked version of Redline Racer, and I was going to maybe do a video just showing the differences between the two versions. That's something on the back burner at the moment. Okay, next question. This one's from Kev Mason. He says, if there was like a rare replay type game which just had Dreamcast games on it, which games would you want on it?
Are we doing like if this is an actual thing that could actually happen, or are we saying like just random games that we would want on it? Because if this would happen, it would have to be like Sega games, right?
Like Dreamcast Collection on the 360. If there was something like that, like let's say, if hypothetically speaking, if there was Dreamcast Collection 2 and you could choose 5 games, what games from the Dreamcast? Any games would you want on it?
Well, I think the thing with the rare thing is, I don't think it. I'm sorry to the person who submitted this, but I don't think it quite works, because like the whole rare replay thing, like you play that old-fashioned Rare company, right? You play a Rare game, and it didn't matter what title it was. You understood it had its own Rare character. Do you understand what I mean? Like you sit down with a Rare game, and almost immediately, within 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes, you're playing a Rare game. And so that Rare replay thing, it works, I think, because they're all games, or most of them are all games of a certain type. They're all very good, and they're all very sort of, they're from the same studio. Yeah. But obviously, if we were to just do one with the Dreamcast, then, well, they can't all be from the same. Yeah, they can't all be from the same studio. So what you'd end up doing is, you'd end up just choosing like the highlights, but they'd sort of be like the generic highlights. So it'd be just like, you'd have Sonic Adventure in, and you'd have Virtua Tennis in. Yeah. And, you know what I mean? And you'd have Ready to Rumble Boxing in. And
I think, Rob, what you're saying is, Kev, your question's rubbish, mate. That's it.
Yeah. Sorry, Kev.
No,
sorry.
I mean, it'd be amazing if somehow they were able to cut through the red tape and do like one of the classic shoot 'em up games, and just have like Ikaruga and Chaos Field and all those games on like one disc, and have like a selection of those. That would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be like absolutely superb. But it would never happen, would it?
Kev, take your question. Do one. All right.
Yeah. Anything that has Cannon Spike in it. Anything that has Cannon Spike in it. Cannon Spike would be awesome to have on a collection.
We'll move on to the next one then. This one is from Last One Up, who is also known as Phil. He did the cover for the Dreamcast Guide, the Ultimate Dreamcast Guide. Why was Daytona USA never ported to Dreamcast, and what other arcade games would you have wanted on the system? I don't actually know why Daytona 2 wasn't ported. I mean, I think they just wanted to make a sort of a best of with Daytona USA 2001. Daytona 2 is pretty cool though. I mean, have you seen that track with the big pirate ship in it, like swinging backwards and forwards? No. It was amazing. Yeah. So the long and short of this one is, I don't actually know. Do either of you two have any thoughts on?
Sorry.
No. What other arcade games then would you have liked on the system? I think we mentioned a couple on the last episode, because Scott has got a new Naomi thing, and he was talking about a particular game. What was it he was talking about? Was it? Oh, I can't remember. Yeah, sorry, Phil. Sorry about that. We can't remember. Next one. This is from Pixel Butts. Let's talk about where we would be if the Xbox had kept the Dreamcast support. Basically, I know what he's getting at is that the Sega tried to sort of get into bed with Microsoft, didn't they, and add Dreamcast compatibility with the original Xbox. Yeah. What do you think about that?
I think it would have been really cool. I think in the end game, though, the long term, nothing much changes. I don't think it's like the future 2, where if that happens, then suddenly now in 2015 we're in this radically different environment. So even if Sega do get that compatibility with the Xbox, like, the company's still done. Like, it's still not producing any hardware from that point on. There's no more Dreamcasts. Maybe it would have helped Sega in the short term a bit more money and would have made its transition into just a software publisher a lot smoother than it was, because Sega has literally, it's only been like, I'd say about 5 years ago that they properly recovered in terms of the sense that of that transition from this hardware software giant to this really, really small software publisher. So it would have been really cool. I had the original Xbox and that sort of, and obviously I had a Dreamcast, so that sort of compatibility would have been really cool. But you would have seen more games as well. It would have worked for Microsoft, obviously, because they would have been able to call on that extensive library. But I don't think in the long term makes a difference to how the industry sits today. I still think Sony and then Microsoft end up as the two big ones duking it out.
With Nintendo sort of scrapping around at the heels.
But Nintendo do look, yeah. I mean, Nintendo just do Nintendo do things how Nintendo do things. They go, well, we were making playing cards like 100 years ago, and we've done things our own way since then. So why should we change? And fair enough, I just let them get on with it. But yeah, they're never going to be as big as Sony and Microsoft going forwards, I don't think.
I listen to a lot of other podcasts, and I listened to, I think it was the Giant Beastcast. It was either the Beastcast or the Bombcast. And they were talking about that deal that's recently gone through with Activision buying the guys who made Candy Crush for like $6 billion or something. And they were talking about Nintendo apparently has got a backup stash of cash, poetry, of $60 billion just in case.
It wouldn't surprise me, because they're a very old-fashioned company, and the reason why they stick out so much today when you see them doing like these, like, you know, they don't do any stuff at E3 anymore, do they? They do their own marketing and sort of their own little events. Like this year, they had loads of Muppets. Can you remember? They had this. Do you remember the Muppets? And it was like a Muppet Miyamoto and a Muppet Reggie getting down with it, and it got absolutely panned. And my point is with that they're old fashioned, and that sort of reliance on Muppets, I think, sort of showed that through. You know,
Reggie is a Muppet. he is a
real
Muppet.
Muppet.
On the subject of Nintendo, did you see that thing recently where that guy got fired because he went on a podcast and spoke about Nintendo?
Oh yeah,
that was pretty dodgy, wasn't it? That didn't do them any favors.
I don't know about this. Tell me.
You got to read your agreements that you sign, and you got to realize that there's repercussions. If you have a job that you have a legal agreement, then no, you can't go on and do that. I mean,
Rob, just because you don't know the story, but basically a guy who works for, like, was he a translator or something? Did he do something to do with like localization? I can't remember now. But he went on to a podcast and spoke about Nintendo and about something to do with, you know, when people come to Nintendo, well, and people harass Nintendo like on social media, make this, you know, turn this game into, you know, localize this particular game, and you know, it was something like that anyway. And he basically got fired from Nintendo for talking about the inner workings of Nintendo on a podcast. It might be in your best interests, Rob, if you don't come on here and start going on about how much you hate your boss at T3.
Well, I mean, he's a localization guy, and I mean, they have very strict rules. I mean, it's, you know, someone's paying you money and they say, well, this job, you have to abide by these rules. Well, then you have to read the rules that you're abiding by, and like, ignorance is no excuse in a job like that. Totally.
Like, look at the 8-4 guys. You know, the 8-4 podcast. Yeah. They do the Jap English translations, and recently they did like the Fire Emblem stuff on 3DS.
Okay.
And like, they're always saying we can't talk about this. We got a really big deal. We've been making deals. We've been working on this thing for years. They're always very hot, you know, they're very serious in the fact that we can't talk about it, you know. I suppose it's an NDA, and if you sign one, you can't then just go and blab in any old podcast and expect to get away with it.
Yeah, it's an interesting subject, but we'll get back on topic. The next question is from Invert Y Podcast. That's a free plug there for Invert Y Podcast. Go and listen to that. It's more of a tech question, but is there a reason the pad cord is on the bottom of the controller? I just assumed it was because they've got VMU slots on the top and it's just an extra thing to get in the way if it's coming out of the top of the joypad. If you open one up, you can have a look at where the wires comes out. I mean, there's no good reason why it couldn't just come out of the bottom of the controller or the top. So I think it's just a design thing.
Yeah, I think everyone sits here now and they look at their modern controllers, and they go, "Oh, why doesn't it come out? Why didn't it come out of the top? It's so obvious." But it's like, it's because Sega were innovating at the time. Like, yes, it's exactly because
I always kind of thought because maybe they thought a lot of people would be like standing up playing the game.
It's interesting.
I don't know, because like the Dreamcast controller is amazing. Like if you have like 4 people playing and they're all standing up and the cord goes to the bottom, like it's just very convenient. It works very well like that. So maybe that was a thought that went into the design. I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. It's weird. These little things, they seem so insignificant now, but you can bet your bottom dollar that a massive amount of like R&D went into that decision. Let's have the wires coming out the bottom of the pads. So it's not an insignificant thing to be talking about, I don't think.
Well, also maybe it had to do with the VMU thing too, right? Because like if you have the cord going on top and you want to look at your VMU, then you'd be pulling on the cable more. But if it's on the bottom and you tilt the VMU towards you, then it wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Yeah. So I don't think it's to do with the VMU slots and things, to be honest.
So do I.
Yeah. Cool. Next one is something that I think you'll be able to answer, Rob, hopefully. London Beckett asks, which dating sims would you recommend on the Dreamcast? Obviously, because the vast majority of them are Japanese. I'm going to suggest that you answer this question, Rob. Not because you're...
Tom. Hang on a minute. Wait a minute. For the record... What are you making me sound like? Seriously. Yes,
did you write an article about? You wrote an article about that. Was it Loving a Northern City or something? Loving a Northern City. Love up north.
That sounds like some sort of like hipster indie British film, like set in Manchester or Leeds. It's
Loving a Northern City.
A rom-com set in Hull. No.
Set in Hull.
Hull. Sorry.
Yeah,
Hull. Yeah. No, I did. Kita E. White Illumination. It's the one dating sim. I repeat, one dating sim that I played, and I played it literally because of the stigma that you get with the dating sims. I mean, in Japan, they were absolutely huge, and they still are huge to a degree. And I was really sort of interested to know, like, why were they so big? Like, we've got this Western sort of idea of, like, that they're really sleazy and a bit sort of, like, sad, and, like, who plays a dating sim? You should be outside, talking to real people. But, yeah, I picked this up, and I wrote this. Was this last summer or the summer before? Last summer.
It was last summer, yeah.
Yeah. Kita E, White Illumination. You play a 17 or 18-year-old guy from Tokyo who during his summer break goes up to Hokkaido and stays in Sapporo, and it's essentially a dating sim. You stay up there, you stay with this other family, and then there's a selection of, I don't know, say 6 to 8 girls essentially that you can end up dating. But it's not the only thing you do. Like you do typical Japanesey things, like you can go shopping, you can do karaoke, you can play video games.
I don't think they're just Japanese things though. I mean, I tend to go shopping and things.
And you would do karaoke if the karaoke unit would work.
Mate, if that karaoke machine worked, I'd be all over YouTube. I'd be like PewDiePie me now.
Okay.
I mean?
Okay, so, they're not okay. Maybe not just Japanesey things, but you do other things than just, like, or you do those things while you're on the date. Anyway, the point is that it's all in Japanese, and there's a lot of text, and it actually has a... the reason why this one's good, though, is if you can deal with it and sort of struggle your way through, or if you just can read and speak great Japanese, then super. It's got this system where when the other characters are talking, you can interrupt them. So, which allows, essentially in terms of the game structure, if you interrupt them, it allows different branching paths for your potential relationship to go down. And anyway, long story short, the point of the game is essentially to hook up with one of these girls at the New Year's celebration, which is called the White Illumination. So essentially you spend from summer through till New Year's. You're not there in Sapporo for the entire time. You obviously go back to Tokyo for a bit. The entire idea is to hook up with one of these girls. Yeah.
And that's, what's it called? Kita E, White Illumination.
I'm really surprised you didn't say something like Sakura Wars, which apparently is it's a dating sim, but then it has like robots that fight each other too. So it seems like that'd be the best of both worlds.
I've heard of Sakura Wars, and that was absolutely huge. And there's a special edition, isn't there? Or there's numerous special editions.
Well, yeah. Then there's a game like Baldur Force, which if you go on my YouTube channel, you could watch. I did a thing, and it's like there's no choices, but there's like so much text.
Yeah,
you're just hammering the key for like 15 minutes, like, and it's just text and text and text and text and text, and then you get to fight with robots. But it's just like there's no like choices, like a dating sim or stuff like that. So I don't know, visual novel stuff, like it's very confusing to me.
I was going to say, you should, Caleb, you should have got that. You know that on The Simpsons where Homer Simpson has that little bird that just keeps tapping the button.
Nodding bird,
to vent the gas from the nuclear plant. You could have got one of them, and it just keep pressing the A button to just keep going through all the text.
Yeah.
Sorry, a bit of a random thing there.
I'll just say the last thing I got, and this is purely from my experience with Key2E, is with the dating sims. I don't know if it sort of developed this mythos here, specifically in the West, where dating sims were never really a thing, that they're these things that are like, in some way, they are actually like sexy and good products, and you actually like, it's like going out on a real date and stuff. Like, what? Like, No, it's like, how can I describe it? Do you know, like the dancing games? People don't dance like. Do you know the dancing games where you have to hit the pads? People don't dance like that, do they? In nightclubs,
nobody plays a guitar
and no
like
one plays
on Guitar Hero.
Like on Guitar Hero, and nobody dates like you do on Key2E. I mean, like, yeah, you go out to like the bowling alley and stuff, maybe when you go out on a date, and you do that in the game. But just the amount of text.
Well, here's the thing. I would say that, no, in the U.S., there's lots of games that have included stuff like that, like in Dragon Age and whatnot, where there's like all these romanceable options and stuff like that. That has it hasn't been very well implemented into the main games yet. But yeah, there's all that stuff where it's like, you know, you're trying to get one character to get into a relationship with your character, and it's like you have to run through all these hoops, which are it's somewhat annoying.
I spent so long in Mass Effect trying to hook up with that blue woman.
Really?
Yeah. So
come on, the weird robot girl.
No.
That's where it's at.
No, it's all about Garrus. Yeah, it's all about Garrus, man. But Caleb is you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. Like,
and there's a big thing too, where like visual novels and like dating sims, there's a lot of crossover, but some of them are like a lot different. I've already told the story once of the horror / adult game that I played on the Dreamcast, and I didn't realize it was an adult game until about 30 minutes in, when stuff started happening. But before that, it was just basically like a visual novel, like murder mystery thing with all this supernatural stuff happening, and it's like, oh yeah, this is kind of interesting because there's this story, and then all of a sudden 30 minutes in, boom, stuff started happening. It's like, oh, well, it's one of these games.
What's that game called?
I'm not gonna say it
in case anyone wants to go and buy it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'll give you a hint though. It's on a certain famous YouTuber's shelf of independent release games. It's right on that shelf, proudly displayed in his home. So yeah.
I just say one more thing as well. We're on these things. I really think that dating sims, like, you can play them as curiosities, I think, but it doesn't matter if you're playing a dating sim on the Dreamcast or if you're playing on Dragon Age Inquisition. I always think there's something fundamentally broken, because it's almost like it's a game. It is a game. Surprise, surprise. You're trying to game the game. Like, you want to hook up with insert character here. Then, is that person a good guy, or is that person a bad guy? I'll be bad, or I'll be good. And it's just really crude. As Caleb says, you're jumping through hoops. You're just sort of like ticking off boxes to, like, really? Like, that's not how relationships work, or that's not how you build a relationship in real life. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, quite an in-depth analysis there of dating games on the Dreamcast. Guys, is there anything else you wanted to just sort of give a shout-out to, or...?
Yeah, sure. I am really enjoying Fatal Frame Made in a Blackwater. I said a couple of pods back that I'd taken a punt on it because I'd never played the Fatal Frame Project Zero over here. But yeah, like the characters still handle, they handle like tanks, and that's a bit frustrating. But like the utilization of the camera is great. Like,
is this on the Wii U?
It's on the Wii U, and using the Wii U remote to take photographs, essentially shoot. It's essentially you're shooting. It's like a gun game. I think that's why I'm liking it a bit, because it's essentially like a gun game. You basically whip out the thing and the Wii remote, and take shots of the ghosts, and it's all a bit sort of cheesy and a bit like the horror. But yeah, I'm having lots of fun with it.
Anything else you want to talk about, Caleb?
I just, for some reason, the one Indiegogo campaign for the Lab Zero who made Skullgirls, they're making a game called Indivisible.
What?
Yeah.
They're making a game that's like an RPG type game where they have like a full, like, it's not even a demo, it's a concept type game that you can play, and it shows off some of the art and how and I think it's very interesting. They're doing a lot of, it's not exactly turn based, it's like real time, so you like block and you like do moves like you're in a fighting game, but it's like an RPG. And it's very interesting. There's a lot of like super cool enemies. They got that weird like ghost from like Thailand where it's like somebody's head and like it leaves their body and all the guts are like dripping from their head. And it's like, that's one of the enemies in the game. And it's like, oh, it's just so cool. Design is interesting. Even if you didn't like Skullgirls, because Skullgirls was like an incredibly hardcore like fighting game. I mean, it's like that's it's if you're fighting somebody who knows how to play a fighting game, it's a heck of a lot of fun just because of the visuals and whatnot. But this game called Indivisible on Indiegogo, it's very interesting, and they might not make their goal because boy, that's very disappointing if they don't. They're asking for a lot of money, but honestly, like that's the amount of money that they need to do the game. They were on the Best Friends podcast where they were talking about it. So Indivisible, go check that out if it is still going.
Cool. One last thing I just wanted to mention quickly. Rob, when I came to visit you, I had a look at some of your like manga comic books.
Oh yeah.
Well, I actually finally bought one. It's called Gaio, The Death Stench Creeps.
Oh wow.
And it's absolutely phenomenal. It's by, what's his name? Ito, yeah. Yeah, it's an absolutely phenomenal book. It's an English version.
Man, manga, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, I didn't know there was so many good stuff.
Yeah.
I never read any of that stuff before, but I've actually picked up, like, 20th Century Boys and the one about, Ippo, the one about boxing.
Okay.
It's so good. It's amazingly good, actually.
With Gyor, is that in an English translation?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, cool.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, Ito, what's his name? Junji Ito. Yeah, he's really good.
Oh wait, are you talking about the horror?
Yeah,
horror.
That's right.
Oh yeah. No. Yeah, no. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about regular manga. No. Horror manga is amazing.
Yeah,
like that's just, it's so creepy, but at the same time, it's like it's so captivating and interesting.
Yeah.
Especially his stuff.
I read it in one go.
I believe. Is he the one who did the one about the holes in the
yes,
rock?
That's in
the mountain face.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's horrific, but it's just so like. It's so enthralling when you read it, man. That stuff is amazing.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Anyway, guys, we're going to close it down now. Yeah, thanks very much for listening to this episode of the Dream Pod. I'm Tom. I'm on Twitter at TomLeeC. Rob, you're on Twitter at
Nicholas J.
Caleb.
I'm on YouTube at Blandco, BlandCO, and you can watch all my Dreamcast stuff. When I get Pure Solar, I'll do a playing of it.
Cool.
And everybody look forward to our Thanksgiving podcast that's going to be coming up, where we do a proper Thanksgiving podcast and give thanks for all the great stuff we've gotten this year.
Yeah, that's coming up soon. You can also follow us as a collective on Twitter at Sega Junkyard. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/The Dreamcast Junkyard. And we've also got a website, which is thedreamcastjunkyard.co.uk. And one last final thing is that we are looking at potentially turning the Dreamcast Ultimate Collector's Guide into a Kickstarter project with a full hardware list and also some new artwork that is potentially going to be done by Aaron, the Gagaman Foster.
It's a big book. It's amazing too. Like, I kind of thought it'd be kind of like a handbook, but then I saw pictures and it's like, wow, the picture of the Dreamcast is almost real size on it. It's really nice.
Cool. Anyway, guys, thanks again for joining me, and thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you on the next Dream Pod. Goodbye.
See you later.
Bye.
Here we go!
Please stop this disc now.